Abel found her at first light. Wasn't looking for her. Wasn't looking for nothing but the fence line he'd been meaning to mend since spring. But there she was, collapsed against the cedar post like something thrown from a moving vehicle. Coat torn, face swollen on one side, hands raw where she'd clawed at something or someone. He stood there longer than he should have. 61 years old, and he still didn't know what to do with this kind of wrong. She opened her eyes, looked straight at him, didn't speak, didn't need to. "Help you up," he said. Wasn't a question. She shook her head, small movement, scared. "All right then, I'll wait." He set his gloves down. Sat in the dirt, 6 feet from her, close enough to help, far enough she could breathe. Waited for her to decide. Getting her to the house took 20 minutes. Place was half a mile. Do the math. She wouldn't let him carry her, wouldn't take his arm neither. Just kept one hand on the fence posts as they went, using them like crutches. He walked ahead, not looking back, giving her what privacy he could. Took 3 stops before they made the porch. Steps are tricky, he said. Wasn't. Been walking them 40 years. But she needed the warning, needed to know he understood she was hurting. She knew it too. Gave him a look, brief, sharp, that said she understood what he was doing. Inside, he pointed to the chair by the stove. "Sit." She sat. He filled the kettle, set it on. Didn't offer tea or coffee yet. Woman bleeding from her lip probably wasn't thinking about beverages. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, just there. He'd learned a long time ago that quiet was better than the wrong words. She watched him move around the kitchen, careful watching. The kind that tracks exits and weapons. He'd seen it before in animals that had been beat, always calculating distance to safety. "Need to see those hands," he said finally. She pulled them back, defensive. "Ain't gonna hurt you. Just need to see what we're dealing with." Long silence. The kettle started its low rumble. Finally, she put her hands on the table, palms up. He didn't touch them, just looked. Rope burns, fresh. Deep enough they'd been tied tight for hours, not minutes. The kind that came from fighting restraints till your skin gave up. "Who?" he asked. She shook her head. "All right, don't need to know today." He got the first aid kit from under the sink, set it on the table. Started laying out supplies, bandages, antiseptic, tape, like he was setting a table for dinner. "You know how to do this yourself?" She nodded. "Good, I'll make coffee. You patch up. Bathroom's down the hall if you need water or privacy. Door locks. I ain't going nowhere, but I ain't watching neither." He turned his back. Heard her breathing change, ragged, like she might cry but wouldn't let herself. The kettle screamed. He took it off the heat, poured 2 cups, set them on opposite ends of the table, kept his back turned while she worked on her hands. Heard the rustle of bandages. The sharp intake of breath when antiseptic hit raw skin. Small sounds of pain she tried to swallow. "There's aspirin in the kit," he said to the wall. "Take 4 if you need to." No answer. Just more rustling. He counted to 60. Turned around slow. She'd wrapped both hands. Not pretty, but functional. The bandages were already spotted red in places, but they'd hold. "Good enough," he said. She picked up the coffee cup with both hands. Held it like it might disappear. Took a sip, made a face. "It's terrible," she said. First words she'd spoken since the fence line. "I know. You drink it anyway." "Every morning for 40 years. Almost smiled again. Still didn't quite make it. "There's a spare room," he said. "Used to be for hired hands. Bed's made. Sheets are clean enough. I can't." "You can, and you will. You're in no shape to go nowhere." "You don't know me." "Don't need to." She looked at him over the coffee cup, studying, trying to figure his angle. Everybody had an angle. "What do you want?" she asked. Direct, hard edge to it. "Want you to rest. Want those hands to heal. Want you to decide what comes next when you ain't running on fear and adrenaline." "Well, that's it. That's it. Nobody's that decent." He picked up his own coffee, took a sip. Still terrible. "Your ex teach you that?" Her face went white. Cup stopped halfway to her mouth. "How did you—" "Rope burns on both wrists means you were restrained. Bruise on your face is a closed fist, not a fall. You flinched when I moved too quick getting the kettle. And you asked what I want, like every man you've met wanted something." He set his cup down. "I ain't him, and this ain't that." Long silence. She stared at her bandaged hands. "I'm 17, she said quietly, testing him, waiting for him to change. He nodded. "Thought you might be young. Don't change nothing. You need help? I got a spare room. Math's simple. People will talk. Let 'em. They'll say things. About you. About why you're helping. They'll say things anyway. Been a widower 6 years. Town's been trying to marry me off to every available woman within 50 miles. I'm used to folks having opinions about my business." She looked at him, really looked, like she was trying to see inside his head to find the lie. Didn't find one. "Okay," she said finally. "Just for tonight, Sure, just for tonight. They both knew it was a lie. But sometimes you need a lie to get to the truth. He showed her the room. She closed the door. He heard the lock click. Good, she should lock it. He went back to the kitchen, washed both coffee cups, looked out the window at his fence line where he'd found her, started making a list in his head, things she'd need, clothes, toiletries, real bandages, food that wasn't just beans and coffee. Been a long time since he'd had someone to look after. Felt strange, felt right. He'd figure out the rest tomorrow. She stayed 3 days without saying her name. He didn't push. Figured if a woman don't want to be called something, she's got her reasons. He gave her the spare room. Wasn't much. Narrow bed, chest of drawers, window that stuck halfway. Used to be where hired hands slept back when he could afford hired hands. Sheets are clean, he said that first night. Changed them last month. She looked at him. All right, 6 weeks, but they ain't dirty. Almost smiled. Didn't quite, but close. Mornings fell into routine without either of them planning it. He'd wake at 5, same as always. By the time he had coffee going, she'd be in the kitchen doorway. Never said good morning, neither did he. Just poured 2 cups. They'd sit at the table, him with the paper he didn't read, her staring at the wall, until the light came up enough to see the fence line. Got work, he'd say. She'd nod. You're welcome to the house. Food in the fridge. TV works most days. She'd nod again. He'd leave. Thing was, when he came back for lunch, things would be different. Dishes washed, floor swept. Once she'd fixed the cabinet door that had been hanging crooked since Claire died. Never said nothing about it, neither did he. But he noticed. And she knew he noticed. That was enough. By the 4th day, she started coming outside, kept her distance, stayed by the barn while he worked the fence, or sat on the porch when he was in the shed, like a cat deciding if you're safe. 5th day, she spoke first. You got dogs? He straightened up from the post hole he was digging. Had one. Died 2 winters back. What kind? Mutt. Good dog, though. You get another? Thought about it. She was quiet for a while. He went back to digging. Dirt was hard this time of year. Late October, ground starting to freeze at night. I had a dog once, she said, voice different, softer. Before. First time she'd acknowledged there was a before. He didn't look at her, kept digging. What kind? Lab mix, black, called him Bear. That's a good name. He was a good dog. Was. Past tense. Abel hit rock, moved the post hole 3 feet over, started again. The sound of the shovel biting earth filled the space between them. What happened to him? He asked after a while. Long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, harder. My ex didn't like him barking. Abel's hands stopped. He looked at the shovel. Looked at his hands on the shovel. Didn't look at her. Your ex around here? No. Good. And he went back to digging, let the rhythm of it say what words couldn't. After a while, she went back inside. That night, he made dinner. Nothing fancy. Steak, potatoes, canned beans, set 2 plates. She came to the table without being asked. They ate in silence. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. Halfway through, she said, Thank you. For what? The room, the food, not asking questions. You'll tell me when you're ready, or you won't. Either way's fine. She cut her steak, took a bite, chewed slow. It's good, she said. It's edible. This time she did smile. Small, quick, but real. You always this hard on yourself? Only when I'm being honest. She almost laughed, caught it, but he saw. After dinner, she washed dishes without being asked. He dried. They moved around each other in the small kitchen like they'd been doing it for years instead of days. When they finished, she hung the dish towel on the rack, looked at him. I'm Lena, she said. He nodded. Abel. I know, saw your name on the mail. Figured you did. She stood there a moment longer, like she wanted to say something else, didn't. Good night, Abel. Good night, Lena. She went to her room, closed the door, didn't lock it this time. Small thing, but it meant something. Week in, she asked about the sheep. Can I help? He looked up from the fence he was mending. Help how? Whatever needs doing. I can't just sit around. You're healing. I'm healed enough. He studied her. Hands still bandaged, but she was moving better. Color coming back to her face. Still too thin, but she'd been eating. Ever worked stock before? No. Then you'd be more trouble than help. She looked at him. Flat expression. Try me. Something in her voice. Not pleading, demanding, like she needed the work more than he needed the help. All right, he said. But you do what I say when I say it. Sheep are stupid, but they're fast. You get hurt out here. Nearest hospital's 40 miles. I'll be careful. He handed her a pair of gloves. Work gloves, man-sized, worn soft in places where his hands had shaped them over years. These were your wife's? She asked. He looked at her sharp. How'd you know I had a wife? She pointed at the kitchen window, visible from where they stood. Coffee cups. You set out 2 every morning. Pour one back. He felt something catch in his chest. Turned away before she could see it. She died 6 years back. I'm sorry. Me too. They walked out to the near pasture. 60 head of sheep, all of them dumber than fence posts, all of them knowing exactly how to make a man's life difficult. He showed her the basics. How to move them without chasing. That just scatters them. How to position herself. Be where they don't want you. Make them think moving is their own idea. It's about pressure, he said. Too much, they panic. Too little, they ignore you. You're looking for that spot right in the middle. She listened, really listened. Not just nodding along, but watching, learning, asking questions that made sense. They worked till noon. Got the flock moved to fresh grass. She was breathing hard by the end, but she'd done it. Kept up. Didn't quit. You did good, he said. For a beginner? For anybody. They sat on the tailgate of his truck, both of them dusty and tired. She took off the gloves, careful, looked at them. Your wife help you with the sheep? Every day. She was better at it than me. Had a feel for them I never quite got. What was her name? He hadn't said it out loud in 6 years. Tried once at the feed store, words stuck in his throat like gravel. But sitting there with Lena, sun warm on his back, it came easier. Claire. The name hung in the air between them, soft, good. She sounds like she was special. She was. Lena set the gloves on the tailgate between them. Thank you for letting me help. Thank you for doing it. They sat there as the sun climbed higher, not talking, not needing to. That night, she woke him screaming. He came down the hall in his undershirt and jeans, no boots, heart hammering, found her sitting on the floor by her bed, knees pulled up, shaking. You're all right, he said from the doorway. Didn't go in, didn't want to crowd her. You're safe. She looked at him like she didn't know where she was. Bad dream? She nodded, couldn't seem to speak. I get those too, he said. Had 'em after Claire died, still do sometimes. He stayed in the doorway, hands in his pockets, non-threatening as he could make himself. I can make coffee if you want, or leave you be. Your call. Coffee, she said finally, voice rough, raw. Please. He made it strong. Set out 2 cups at the kitchen table. She came down a few minutes later, hair tangled, eyes red, wrapped in the blanket from her bed. They sat there. 2 in the morning. Moths batting against the porch light outside. Coffee going cold between them. She didn't talk about the dream. He didn't ask. After a while, she said, You ever been scared? Every day of my life. Of what? He thought about it. About Claire dying, about being alone, about not being enough when it mattered, of not doing the right thing when it counts, he said finally. She looked at him a long time. Me too. The clock on the wall ticked, loud in the quiet. They're going to come looking for me, she said, barely a whisper. My father, his people. They won't just let me go. There it was. The shadow he'd been waiting for. When? I don't know, soon maybe. He's got lawyers. Money. He knows people. So do I. She shook her head. You don't understand what he's like, what he'll do. Then tell me. She pulled the blanket tighter. He owns half the county 2 hours south of here. Sheriff's his cousin. Judge plays poker with him every Thursday. When I ran the last time, they brought me back in 2 days. Last time? I've tried before. 3 times. Never made it more than a week. Abel took a slow sip of his coffee, set it down careful. This time's different. How? Because I ain't his cousin, and I ain't afraid of him. You should be. Probably, but I ain't. She looked at him across the table, measuring, trying to figure if he was brave or just stupid. Why are you doing this? She asked. Really, you don't know me. You don't owe me nothing. He looked at his hands, rough hands, working hands, 61 years of wearing them down, on fence posts and sheep and land that fought him for every blade of grass. Claire used to say I had a hero problem, he said, always trying to fix things that weren't mine to fix. Made her crazy sometimes. That's not an answer. It's the only one I got. They sat there until the sky started going gray in the east. When she went back to her room, she left her door open again, but this time it felt different. Not trust, something else. Warning, maybe? Or hope. He cleaned up the coffee cups. Stood at the kitchen window, watching the sun come up over his fence line. Thought about what she'd said, about her father, about running before. Thought about Claire, about the promises he'd made at her grave. To be better, to not waste what time he had left. Went to his bedroom, opened the closet, pulled out the lockbox from the top shelf. Opened it. His father's 45. Hadn't touched it in years. Didn't much like guns. but some situations required them. He checked the clip, still loaded. Needed oil, probably. He'd take care of that tomorrow. Put it in his nightstand, where he could reach it, just in case. Outside, the coyote started up, high and lonesome. He closed his eyes, listened. Tomorrow he'd call Tomlin, old friend, sheriff in this county, get a feel for what kind of trouble might be coming. Tonight, he'd sit here and think about a girl named Lena who'd run 4 times and never made it free, and decide what kind of man he wanted to be about it. Week in, she asked to help with the sheep. He said no. She asked again. He said no again. 3rd time, he handed her the gloves. They were loading feed bags into the truck bed when she saw it. His glove box had popped open on a rough patch of road. Something silver caught the light. What's that? He looked over, saw what she was pointing at, reached across and closed the glove box quick. Nothing. Didn't look like nothing. Just an old buckle. Rodeo prize from back when I was young and stupid. Can I see it? No. She looked at him. He kept his eyes on the road. They drove in silence for a while. Pasture rolling by. Fence posts clicking past like seconds on a clock. Why do you keep it in there if you don't wear it? She asked finally. Don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I got. She let it go. But he could feel her thinking about it. That night, after dinner, she brought it up again. They were washing dishes. Her drying, him washing. The routine they'd fallen into without planning. Tell me about the rodeo. Nothing to tell. There's always something to tell. He handed her a plate. She dried it slow, waiting. 1982, he said finally. Bull riding, county fair. Drew a mean one called Widowmaker. Everybody said I was crazy to try. What happened? Lasted 8 seconds. Won $200 in the buckle. And Claire pinned it on me herself. Her hands were shaking. Too much champagne and pride. The plate in Lena's hands stopped moving. She was there? Front row, screaming louder than anybody. You loved her a lot. Wasn't a question. He didn't answer it like one. Still do. Lena set the plate in the rack, picked up another one. That why you can't wear the buckle? He looked at his hands in the dishwater, wrinkled, old, 61 years of wear. Feels like I didn't earn it anymore, he said quietly. She pinned it on a man who'd ride a bull in front of the woman he loved, man who'd take risks, fight for things. And now? Now I'm just some old rancher who lets sheep push him around. She dried the plate, set it down, looked at him. You're hiding a girl your father's looking for. Got a gun in your nightstand. Pretty sure that's taking a risk. He didn't have an answer for that. They finished the dishes in silence. When they were done, she hung the towel on the rack, turned to face him. I think you should wear it, she said. The buckle? Yeah. Why? Because Claire pinned it on you? Because you earned it then and you're earning it now? And because hiding good things in glove boxes is just another way of being scared. She went to her room before he could respond. He stood in his kitchen, alone, listening to the clock tick and the wind outside and the sound of her door closing. Not locking, just closing. Thought about what she'd said, about being scared, about hiding good things, went to his truck, opened the glove box, looked at the buckle sitting there in the dark, silver, tarnished some, but still solid, picked it up, brought it inside, set it on his dresser where he'd see it in the morning. Didn't put it on, not yet, but it was out of the dark. That was something. Next morning, Abel called Tomlin, sheriff for this county, known him 30 years. If trouble was coming, Tomlin would hear about it first. Need a favor? Abel said when Tomlin picked up. That's usually my line to you. I'm serious. Something in Abel's voice made Tomlin go quiet. What do you need? Got a girl staying with me, 17, running from her father. Need to know if anyone's been asking questions. Long pause. Abel, what did you get yourself into? Just tell me what you hear. Where's she from? 2 counties south. Father's name is Brennan. Thomas Brennan. Owns land down there. Connected. Connected how? Sheriff's his cousin. Judge plays poker with him. Tomlin whistled low. That Brennan. Yeah, I know of him. Big money, big reach. Anyone asking about a runaway girl? Not yet. But Abel, if he's who I think he is, they will be. Man like that, don't let things go. How much time you figure I got? Week, maybe 2 if you're lucky. He'll start with official channels. Missing person report, parental rights, then he'll get creative. What's creative mean? Means he'll send people who don't wear badges. Abel looked out the kitchen window. Lena was on the porch, coffee cup in both hands, watching the sunrise. Thanks, Tom. Abel, whatever you're thinking, appreciate the call. He hung up before Tomlin could argue. That afternoon they worked the fence line together, her in those gloves, him with his tools. Not talking much, just working. She was getting good at it. Knew which posts needed replacing just by looking. Knew how to pull wire tight without snapping it. "You're a fast learner," he said. "Had good teachers before. Just never got to stay long enough to use it." You'll stay this time." She looked at him. "You can't promise that." "I can try." They worked till the sun started dropping. On the way back to the truck, she stopped, looked at the horizon. Something in her face changed. "What is it?" he asked. "Thought I saw a truck." "On the county road?" Abel looked. Didn't see nothing but dust settling. "Could be anybody." "Could be." But her hands were shaking when she climbed in his truck. That night at dinner, she barely ate. Kept looking at the windows, at the door. "Lena." She looked at him. "I talked to the sheriff this morning. Friend of mine. He's keeping ears open. We'll know if your father makes noise." "How much time?" "Week or two." She set her fork down. "That's not much." "It's enough." "For what?" "To figure out how to do this legal. To build a case. To make sure you don't have to run again." "You don't understand. He always wins. Every time. Not this time." She looked at him, eyes wet but not crying. "Why do you keep saying that?" "Because some things are worth fighting for. You're one of them." She stood up, walked to the window, stood there looking out at the dark. "My father used to say that," she said quietly, "that I was worth fighting for. Then he'd lock me in my room for 3 days because I talked back." Abel felt something cold in his chest. "I ain't him. I know. Do you?" She turned, looked at him. "I'm starting to." And they cleaned up dinner, went to their separate rooms. But Abel didn't sleep much. Kept thinking about that truck she'd seen, about Tomlin's warning, about men who sent people without badges. Around midnight, he got up, checked the .45 in his nightstand, made sure it was loaded, went to the front window, looked out at his driveway, at the county road beyond. Nothing but darkness and stars. But somewhere out there, a clock was ticking, and time was running out. Sheriff came back on a Tuesday. Abel knew it was trouble before Tomlin got out of the cruiser. Man was wearing his uncomfortable face, the one he uses when he's got bad news and a legal obligation. "Abel." "Tom." They stood in the yard. Lena was inside, making lunch. Abel could see her through the window. Tomlin could too. "Need to talk to you." Talking. Alone. Abel looked at the house, back at Tomlin. "She stays where she is. You got something to say? Say it." Tomlin shifted his weight, looked at his boots, looked at Abel. "Her father's lawyer filed papers, official complaint, says she's got a history." "History of what?" "Running off, making accusations, mental health issues." "That right?" And says she's done this before. 3 times, different men each time, all of them cleared." Abel felt something cold settle in his gut. "Also says she's got a juvie record, theft, assault, lying to social workers." "She tell you any of this?" "No." "Didn't think so." Tomlin pulled a folder from under his arm, handed it over. "It's all there. Reports, medical evaluations, court documents." Abel opened the folder, scanned the first page, then the second. His face didn't change, but his hands got tight on the paper. Says here she accused 3 different foster fathers of abuse. All 3 investigations found insufficient evidence. That's what it says. Says she has a pattern of manipulation, of lying to get attention. "Abel, I ain't saying I believe it. I'm saying that's what the legal record shows." "And when a judge looks at this, what does she say?" "Haven't asked her yet. Wanted to talk to you first." Abel looked at the papers in his hands, at the official stamps and signatures and legal language that made a girl's pain sound like strategy. "When did Brennan file this?" "Yesterday. Judge issued a pickup order this morning. I'm supposed to bring her in." "You gonna do that?" Tomlin was quiet a long time. "I don't want to. But if I don't, county'll send someone who will, and they won't be gentle about it." "How much time?" "I can give you till Friday. Say I couldn't locate her. But after that, my hands are tied." "That's 3 days." "That's all I got." Abel closed the folder, handed it back. "Keep it," Tomlin said. "You'll need to see what you're up against." After Tomlin left, Abel stood in the yard holding that folder, felt the weight of it, the official weight of a girl's whole life reduced to problems and patterns and psychiatric evaluations. Went inside. Lena was at the stove, making grilled cheese. The smell of butter and bread filled the kitchen. "Who was that?" she asked without turning around. "Sheriff Tomlin?" She went still. Spatula stopped moving. "What did he want?" Abel set the folder on the table. "You want to tell me about the other times you ran?" She turned slow, looked at the folder, at him. Something in her face shut down. "What's that?" "Papers from your father's lawyer. Says you've accused 3 men of abuse. Says all 3 were cleared. They were lying." The men or the investigators?" "Both. Says you got a juvie record, theft, assault, and I stole food because I was hungry. I hit a man because he wouldn't stop touching me. And says you have mental health issues. Personality disorder, tendency to fabricate. She set the spatula down careful. Too careful. You believe that? I'm asking what's true. Everything I told you is true. Which parts did you leave out? Her jaw worked. The parts that would make you look at me like you're looking at me right now. B2. Symbol. Flips. Meaning, that hit different than he expected. He looked away, looked at the folder, back at her. I ain't judging. I'm trying to understand. Understand what? That I've been running my whole life? That I've lied and stolen and fought because that's what you do when nobody believes you? That I'm exactly what those papers say I am? That ain't what. Wait, then what? Her voice cracked. What do you want me to say? The truth. All of it. She laughed. Sharp, bitter. You can't handle the truth. Nobody can. That's why I didn't tell you. Try me. She looked at him, really looked, like she was deciding something. I ran 4 times, she said finally. First time I was 13, told a teacher my father hit me. They investigated. He cried, said I was troubled, acting out because my mother died. They believed him. And I went home. He broke 3 of my ribs that night. Told me next time I'd get worse. Abel's hands fisted on the table. Second time I was 14, foster home. The father, he'd come in my room at night. I told the social worker. They did a medical exam, found nothing. He said I was making it up for attention. They moved me to a group home. Said I was the problem. Jesus, Lena. Third time I was 15. Different foster father, same story. Except this time I fought back. Broke his nose, police came. He said I attacked him without provocation. My word against his. Guess who they believed? And she wrapped her arms around herself. That's when they started the psych evaluations. Decided I had issues. Put me on medication, sent me to therapy, made me talk about my pattern of false accusations. And the 4th time, I stopped fighting back. Stopped telling anyone, just ran. Made it 6 days before they found me. That's when my father got custody again. Judge said I needed stability and family structure. She looked at the grilled cheese on the stove. Burning now. Smoke rising. That's the truth. That's what those papers don't say. That nobody believed me. That every time I tried to get help, they called me a liar. That the system that's supposed to protect kids like me decided I was too much trouble. Abel stood up, went to the stove, turned it off, moved the pan. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because you would have looked at me different. Like maybe I was lying to you too. Like maybe those papers were right, and I'm just some broken girl who makes up stories. I ain't thinking that. You're thinking something. He was. He was thinking about how a girl learns not to trust when everyone she trusts hurts her. How she learns to lie when the truth gets her beaten. How she runs because standing still means dying. He was thinking about those papers, about how official they looked, how convincing, how a judge would read them and see a troubled girl with a pattern, not a survivor with scars. He looked at her, standing there in his kitchen, arms wrapped tight around herself, eyes dry because she'd learned crying didn't help. I believe you, he said. You don't have to. I believe you. She didn't move, didn't cry, just stood there breathing. Why? He thought about the rope burns, about how she flinched at sudden movements, about the nightmares, about how she locked her door those first nights. Because I got eyes, he said. And I know what scared looks like. She let out a breath, small sound, like something breaking loose. Sheriff's got a pickup order, he said. Supposed to bring you in by Friday. That's 3 days. So that's it. I go back. Hell it is. She looked at him. Abel, you can't. 3 days is enough to figure this out legal. To find a lawyer. To file for custody or protective placement or whatever it takes. My father will fight it. Let him. He'll win. Not if we don't let him. He went to his bedroom, came back with the rodeo buckle, set it on the table between them. She looked at it. At him. What's that for? Reminder, he said, that I ain't putting this away again. That I'm done hiding. Done letting people push me around. Done with easy. He picked up the buckle, threaded it on his belt, put it on, first time in 6 years. Felt right. Felt earned. You with me? He asked. She looked at him, at the buckle, at the man standing in front of her who'd just put on armor. Yeah, she said. I'm with you. Outside, a truck passed on the county road. Slow. Neither of them mentioned it, but they both noticed. The clock was ticking louder now. She was gone by morning. Took nothing but the gloves and the shame. Abel woke at 5, same as always. Put the coffee on. Set out 2 cups. Didn't realize what he'd done till the pot finished brewing. 2 cups. like she'd be coming down any minute. He stood there looking at them, picked up the second one. Went to pour it back, stopped, set it down on the counter, filled it, let it sit there. Some habits die harder than others. He drank his standing at the sink, watching the fence line appear as the sun came up. Everything looked the same as it did yesterday. Sheep were still there, gate still hanging crooked, truck still needed an oil change. Only difference was the empty chair. Finished his coffee, washed both cups, put them away, went out to work, made it 3 hours before he came back in. Told himself he needed water. Told himself he needed to check if he'd left the stove on. Told himself a lot of things that didn't explain why he stood in the doorway of her room for 10 full minutes. Bed was made, military corners, tighter than he ever made it. Dresser drawers closed, window shut. Only thing left was a smell, that cheap soap from the motel by the highway. She must have bought some with the 20 he'd left in the kitchen. Must have washed her hair that last night. He hadn't even known she'd been to town. On the dresser, folded neat, was one of Claire's old shirts. The girl had been wearing it yesterday, must have washed it, left it behind. He picked it up, held it, set it back down exactly where it was, closed the door, called Tomlin from the kitchen phone. She's gone. But when? Sometime last night. I checked around midnight. She was there. 5 a.m. She wasn't. Any idea where? If I knew that, I wouldn't be calling you. Long pause. He could hear Tomlin breathing through the line, thinking, I'll put out a bolo, quiet one, just asking folks to keep an eye out. Appreciate it. Abel, what? You know why she left, right? I know. She thinks she's protecting you. I know that too. So what do you want me to do? Say I find her. She don't want to come back. She's 17, but not helpless. I can't force her. Abel looked at the 2 coffee cups drying in the rack. Just make sure she's safe, he said. That's all. Just make sure wherever she lands, she's safe. And if she ain't, then you call me. Abel, you call me, and I'll handle it. And he hung up before Tomlin could argue. Stood there in his kitchen, house quiet except for the clock ticking and the wind outside, and the sound of his own breathing. He'd been alone in this house for 6 years, gotten used to it, gotten good at it, 2 weeks. Girl'd been here 2 weeks, and the quiet felt different now, felt wrong. He walked back to her room, opened the door, looked at that made bed, and that folded shirt and that window she must have climbed out of in the dark. Damn it, he said to the empty room, then quieter. Come back. Nobody answered. He found the note around noon, tucked under the sugar bowl on the kitchen table. How he'd missed it that morning, he didn't know. Wasn't looking, probably. Plain paper, pencil. Her handwriting, careful, neat, like she'd been taught by nuns or someone strict. Abel, I'm sorry. I know you said 3 days, but I can't wait that long. Not for this. Abel, I'm sorry. I know you said 3 days, but I can't wait that long. Not for this. By now, you've called Tom, and he's told you I'm gone. Don't waste time looking. I know how to disappear. Been doing it my whole life. You were right about one thing. This time is different. Because this time I'm not running from something. I'm running to something. A chance. For you. Those papers Tom showed you, that's just the start. My father has more. Photos, recordings, things he's been collecting for years. Evidence that'll make you look like exactly what he wants people to think you are. And you can fight it. I know you will. You'll spend every dollar you have on lawyers. You'll lose your reputation. Maybe your ranch. Maybe worse. And for what? For a girl who's been nothing but trouble since the day you found her. I can't let you do that. You put that buckle on yesterday, and I saw it. Saw what it meant. You were getting ready to fight for me. To stand up and say, not this time. And God, Abel, I wanted to let you. Wanted to believe. It could be different. But I've seen what happens when good people try to fight my father. They lose. Every time. And I'm tired of watching good people lose because of me. So I'm giving you the only thing I can. A way out. By tomorrow morning, I'll be gone far enough that Tom can honestly say he doesn't know where I am. You can tell the judge you tried to help, but I ran. You did your best. Nobody can blame you for that. Thank you for the coffee, for the room, for believing me when nobody else did, for sitting in the dirt that first morning and waiting for me to decide. Thank you for giving me 2 weeks of knowing what safe feels like. I won't forget. Lena, P.S. I kept the gloves. I know I shouldn't have. But I needed something. He read it 3 times, each time hoping the words would say something different. They didn't. He set the note down, looked at his hands, at the buckle on his belt, at the empty kitchen she'd left to protect him. Thought she was saving him by going. Didn't even ask if that's what he wanted. He tried to work, made it to the fence line, stood there with his tools, couldn't remember what needed fixing, went back to the house, tried to eat lunch, made a sandwich, took 2 bites, tasted like cardboard, threw it away. The afternoon stretched long. He sat on the porch, coffee going cold in his hand, watching the road, half expecting to see her walking back up the drive, knowing she wouldn't, The sheep needed moving to fresh pasture. He didn't move them. The gate needed oil. He didn't oil it. The truck needed that oil change. He sat in it instead. Keys in the ignition, engine off, looking at that glove box. Opened it. Empty except for registration and old receipts. The buckle was on his belt now, but somehow that empty glove box felt like something stolen. Evening came. He made dinner out of habit, set one plate, looked at it, put it back, wasn't hungry anyway, stood at the sink, watching the light die behind the mesa. Thought about calling Tomlin again, didn't. Nothing to say. Thought about getting in his truck, driving, looking, didn't. She was right. She knew how to disappear. Thought about a lot of things, did none of them. That night, he sat in Claire's chair, the one by the fireplace, hadn't sat in it since she died. But his chair, the one he'd been using 6 years, felt wrong now, felt like lying, because she'd been right about something else too, about him having a hero problem, always trying to fix things that weren't his to fix. Claire used to say it gentle. Abel, you can't save everybody. He'd say, I can try. She'd shake her head. Trying ain't the same as succeeding, and you'll kill yourself trying. She'd been right too. He hadn't saved her. 18 months the doctor said she had. 18 months of sitting by her bed, holding her hand, watching her fade. All that trying, all those prayers, all that desperate bargaining with God. Didn't matter. She died on a Tuesday morning. October. Last thing she did was squeeze his hand. He'd told himself it was different with Lena, that this time he could actually do something, actually make a difference. But here he was, 6 years later. Different woman, same result, gone. He got up, went to his bedroom, looked at that dresser where he'd set the buckle for one day before putting it on. Claire's shirt was still there, the one Lena had folded and left behind. He picked it up, held it. Blue cotton, soft from years of washing. Claire had worn it gardening. Said it was her lucky shirt because nothing died when she wore it. She'd been wearing it the day they got her diagnosis. Guess the luck ran out. He pressed the shirt to his face. Didn't smell like Claire anymore. Smelled like that cheap motel soap, like Lena trying to wash away any trace of herself before she left, like she was sorry for existing. That's what broke him, not the empty room, not the note, not even her leaving. It was that she thought she needed to apologize for being alive, for taking up space, for mattering to someone. He sank down on the bed, still holding that shirt, 61 years old, twice a failure, maybe more, because the truth was, he'd known she might run. Had seen it in her eyes that last night when they'd spotted that truck, had felt her pulling back, getting ready. And he'd done nothing. Put on his buckle, made his promises, told her they'd fight. But he'd never asked her what she wanted. Never asked if she wanted him to fight for her or if she was tired of people fighting over her. Never asked if maybe running was the only power she had left and he was taking that from her too. Just assumed he knew better, that his way was the right way. Same thing he'd done with Claire. Pushed for every treatment, every experimental drug, every extra day. Never asked if she was tired, if she was ready, if maybe letting go was mercy, just kept fighting because that's what heroes do. Except Claire didn't need a hero. She needed her husband to listen. And Lena didn't need saving. She needed someone to trust her to save herself. He'd failed them both. He set the shirt down, stood up, went to his nightstand. The .45 was there, loaded, ready. He looked at it. Closed the drawer without touching it. What was he going to do? Shoot at paperwork? Shoot at a system that didn't care? Shoot at his own stupidity? He went back to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it standing at the sink, looked out at the dark. Somewhere out there, Lena was alone, scared, running, and he was here, standing in his kitchen, wearing a buckle that didn't mean a damn thing if he couldn't keep the people he cared about safe. The clock on the wall said midnight. He hadn't cried when Claire died, hadn't cried in 6 years, didn't cry now. But he stood at that sink until the sun came up, hands gripping the edge, breathing, just breathing. Trying to figure out what comes after you fail, the same way twice. Trying to figure out if there's such a thing as a third chance. Or if some men just aren't built for saving anybody but themselves. Took 3 days for the story to get around town. Small places got long memories and short mercy. By Thursday, folks were talking. The feed store clerk wouldn't meet his eyes. Checked him out fast. Didn't ask about the ranch like usual. At the diner, the table near the window, his table for 15 years, was taken. Waitress sat him in back. Brought coffee without asking what he wanted. Pie today? She asked. Same question every Thursday. No thanks. She left. Didn't refill his coffee. Usually did twice. He ate alone. Left exact change. Walked out past Marv Henderson and Bill Yates at the counter. Both of them looked at their plates. Been knowing those men 40 years. Went to school with Bill. Helped Marv birth a calf in a blizzard back in '04. Neither one said hello. Abel drove home. Radio off. Windows down. Listening to nothing but wind and road noise and the sound of his own thoughts. Which was the problem. His thoughts had gotten loud. That afternoon, Tomlin stopped by, didn't call first, just showed up. "Any word?" Abel asked from the porch. "No. You?" "No." Tomlin leaned against his cruiser, looked at the ground, looked at Abel. "Town's talking," he said. "I know. Saying things. About you, about her, about what you were doing out here with a 17-year-old girl. Let 'em talk." Abel, I'm trying to help, but if this gets official, if someone files a complaint, I'll have to investigate. You understand that?" "I do." "Did anything?" "No." "You sure?" Abel looked at him, hard. "I gave her a room, fed her, kept her safe. That's all." Tomlin nodded. "That's what I figured." "But you know how it looks." "I know how it looks. Don't make it true." What are you gonna do?" "I don't know yet." Tomlin pushed off the cruiser, started to leave, stopped. "For what it's worth, I believe you, about all of it. That girl was running from something real. I saw her hands, saw how she moved. That ain't fake." "I know. But belief don't count for much when the law's involved." After Tomlin left, Abel sat on his porch. Same spot where he'd drunk coffee with Lena, where she'd asked about his dog, where they'd sat in comfortable silence watching the fence line. Empty now. He looked at the buckle on his belt, silver catching the late sun, wondered what the hell he'd been thinking. Putting it on, like wearing a piece of metal made him brave. Like symbols mattered more than sense. Claire would have called him an idiot. She'd have been right. That night, he couldn't sleep, lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. To the wind outside? To nothing. Got up around 2, went to the kitchen, made coffee he didn't want, stood at the sink, same spot he'd stood the morning he found her gone. Thought about what Tomlin said, about how it looked. Thought about what the town was saying, what they believed. Thought about Lena out there somewhere, alone, running, thinking she'd saved him by leaving. Thought about Claire, about all the things he'd done wrong, about how love ain't the same as knowing what's right. He looked at the Bible on the shelf, Claire's, the little one she'd carried everywhere. Hadn't opened it since the funeral. Couldn't. Opened it now. Found the verse she'd underlined more than any other, marked in 3 different colors over the years. "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." He stared at it, at her handwriting in the margins, at the date she'd written there, October 15th, 2 weeks before she died. Below it, she'd written, "Abel forgets to look up, always looking at the ground, at the work, at the problem. Sometimes the answer is in the seeing, not the fixing." His throat got tight. She'd known him, known his hero problem, known he'd spend years after she was gone trying to fix things that couldn't be fixed, trying to earn something that was already given. He closed the Bible, set it back on the shelf, went to his bedroom, looked at Claire's shirt on the dresser, the one Lena had folded and left behind. Picked it up, pressed it to his face, smelled like cheap soap and regret. He set it down, looked at himself in the mirror above the dresser. 61 years old, weathered, worn, buckle on his belt that used to mean something. Sometimes the answer is in the seeing, not the fixing. He'd been trying to fix Lena, save her, protect her, fight for her. Never asked if that's what she needed. Never asked what she wanted, just assumed, just acted. Just put on his buckle and declared war. Same thing he'd done with Claire. Pushed for every treatment, every extra day, every desperate measure. Never asked if she was ready to go. Never asked if letting her go was the kindness. He took off the buckle, set it on the dresser, not giving up, not putting it away, just putting it down for a minute. To think, to see instead of fix. What did Lena want? Not what he thought she should want. Not what was legal or right or safe. What did she want? And how the hell was he supposed to know if he couldn't ask her? He stood there a long time, thinking. Around 4 a.m., his phone rang. He nearly didn't answer. Nothing good comes from calls at 4 in the morning. Answered anyway. "Abel, it's Jim, your lawyer." It's 4 in the morning. "I know. Just got a call from a colleague in Roswell. Says there's a girl matching Lena's description, working at a motel, cleaning rooms for cash." Abel's hand tightened on the phone. "She okay?" "Physically, yeah. But Abel, her father's filed for a federal pickup order. U.S. Marshals, not just local, they're moving fast." "Well, how fast?" "Could be there by tomorrow, maybe sooner." "Where's the motel?" "Abel, if you go..." "Where?" Jim gave him the address. "Don't do anything stupid." Abel hung up, stood there in his kitchen. 4 in the morning. Call from God, or the devil, he wasn't sure which. But he knew what he had to do. Not fix, not save, not fight. Ask. He went to his bedroom, put on his good shirt, the one Claire bought him, looked at the buckle on the dresser, picked it up, put it on. Not as armor this time. As reminder, some things are worth trying for, even if you fail. Some questions need asking, even if you don't like the answer. He grabbed his keys, headed for the door. Roswell was 4 hours away. He had till morning, maybe. Time to go see what Lena wanted. Not what he wanted for her. Her choice. Her call. He'd respect it this time, even if it killed him. Found her on the third day. Wasn't luck. Was a bartender in Roswell who knew Abel's father and owed him a favor from 30 years back. Abel drove straight through, 4 hours, didn't stop except for gas. Sun came up somewhere around the state line, light breaking over flat desert and scrub brush and highway that stretched to nothing. The kind of country that makes you think too much, if you let it. He didn't let it. Just drove. Hands at 10 and 2, radio off, thinking about what he was going to say, not what he wanted to say, what he needed to ask. By the time he hit Roswell, it was 8 in the morning. Town was waking up. Diners opening. Trucks moving. Normal people doing normal things. He wasn't normal people right now. The Desert Rose was exactly what its name suggested, trying real hard to be something it wasn't. 2-story motor court, neon sign half burned out, parking lot with more potholes than pavement. He found her in room 14, knocked soft. Who is it? Her voice, rough, scared. Abel. Silence. Long enough he thought she might not answer. Then the door opened, chain still on. She looked at him through the gap, face thinner than it had been 3 days ago, eyes harder, hair pulled back in a ponytail that had seen better days. How'd you find me? I asked. You shouldn't have come. Probably not. Came anyway. Abel, you can't be here. If anyone sees... Don't care who sees. She looked past him, at his truck in the parking lot, at the empty highway beyond, looking for trouble. Finding none yet. What do you want? He took his hat off, held it. Old habit when talking to women. Claire used to say it made him look like a kid, asking permission. To ask you something. I answered everything in the note. Wasn't those questions. She waited. Still hadn't unlatched the chain. Can I come in? He asked. No. Can we at least talk? We're talking. I mean, really talk. Not through a chain. She looked at him. At the gap between them. At the 6 inches of space that felt like 6 miles. 5 minutes. She said finally. That's all. She unlatched the chain, opened the door. The room was small. Bed, TV that probably didn't work, bathroom with a door that didn't close right. Her stuff, what little there was, sat in her plastic bag by the bed. Those gloves were on the nightstand. His gloves, worn thin, stained with work. She saw him looking. I told you I kept them. I know. She sat on the bed. He stayed standing. Didn't want to crowd her. You drove 4 hours to stare at my gloves? She asked. No. Then what? He turned his hat in his hands, looking for words, not finding the right ones. I came to ask what you want, he said finally. She looked at him like he was speaking a language she didn't understand. What I want? Yeah. I told you, in the note, I want you safe. That's what you want for me. I'm asking what you want for you. She went quiet, looked at her hands. Nobody's ever asked me that, she said. I know. That's the problem. The air between them felt heavy, like the room was too small for all the things that needed saying. I screwed up, he said. Put that buckle on and made declarations about fighting, about keeping you safe. Never asked if that's what you wanted. Never asked if maybe running was your choice and I was taking it from you. You were trying to help. Yeah, but trying ain't the same as listening. She looked up at him. Why are you here, Abel? Really? Because federal marshals are coming. Jim called. Said they could be here today. Maybe already are. Her face went white. And because I needed to ask you something before they get here. Before time runs out? Ask what? He looked at those gloves on the nightstand. At this room that wasn't a home. At this girl who'd been running her whole life and maybe didn't know how to stop. Ask if you want to come back, he said. She stood up, walked to the window, pulled the curtain back, looked out at the parking lot. Come back to what? She asked. To your ranch, where the whole town thinks you're some pervert. To waiting for my father's lawyers to show up, to making your life harder than it already is. To a place where you got a room, where you got work if you want it, where you can decide what comes next instead of running. That's not realistic. Maybe not, but it's real. She let the curtain fall, turned to face him. What's changed, Abel? 3 days ago you put on that buckle and said we'd fight. Now you're asking what I want. What's different? He thought about that, about Claire's note in her Bible, about sitting at his sink at 2 in the morning, about standing in town while people looked away. I am, he said. I'm different. How? I stopped thinking I knew better than you. Stopped thinking my job was to save you. Started thinking maybe my job was to ask you what you need and then help with that. She looked at him. Really looked, like she was trying to see inside his head to find the trick. And if I say I need to keep running, then I'll give you money, help you get farther, maybe buy you a bus ticket somewhere they won't look. You'd do that? if that's what you want. And if I say I want to come back, then we go. Right now. We get ahead of the marshals. We file papers. We get you legal help. We do it right this time. Your father's got lawyers. So do I. Got Jim working on it. He says there's precedent, emancipation cases, protective custody, ways to do this that don't end with you going back. It's not that simple. I know it ain't, but nothing is. And running for the rest of your life ain't simple neither. She wrapped her arms around herself, looked small, young, 17 and tired. I don't want to ruin your life, she said quietly. You ain't ruining nothing. Town was gonna talk anyway. Let 'em. I got sheep and land and bills to pay. Rest is just noise. You say that now. I'll say it tomorrow too. She walked back to the bed, sat down, put her head in her hands. I'm scared, she said. I know. I'm scared of going back. I'm scared of staying. I'm scared of being the reason you lose everything. And then be scared at my place. Be scared in a room that locks. Be scared with food in the fridge and sheep to take care of and terrible coffee every morning. She looked up, almost smiled. Didn't quite make it. It really is terrible coffee. I know. She looked at the gloves on the nightstand, at her plastic bag, at the window where the sun was coming up strong over the parking lot. If I come back, she said slowly, it's not because you rescued me, it's because I'm choosing to. I understand. And if I change my mind, if it gets too hard or too dangerous, I get to leave. No guilt, no arguments. Agreed. And you stop trying to save me. You ask, you listen, you let me figure out my own life. Deal. She stood up, picked up the gloves, put them on, looked at her hands. These don't fit right, she said. I know, they're work gloves, not meant to fit perfect. I like them anyway. She picked up her plastic bag. Everything she owned in the world fit in one grocery store bag. Let's go, she said, before I lose my nerve. They walked out together. He didn't carry her bag, even though it weighed nothing. She walked beside him instead of behind him. Small change. Big difference. At the truck, she stopped. Abel? Yeah? Thank you for asking. He opened the truck door for her. She climbed in. Thank you for answering, he said. They drove out of the parking lot, radio off, windows down, not talking. Behind them, 2 SUVs with government plates pulled into the desert rows. 10 minutes too late. Abel saw them in the rearview mirror, didn't say nothing. Neither did she. But they both knew they'd gotten out just in time. Or maybe just in time. Didn't matter as much as choosing to get out together. 4 hours back to the ranch. 4 hours to figure out what comes next. But for now, they just drove, and that was enough. 3 months later, first snow came early. Lena was ready for it. She wore those gloves every day now. Wore them down to nothing. Leather soft and split at the seams. Abel told her twice to get new ones. She kept using the old. Morning of the hearing, she set them on the kitchen table next to her coffee cup. Not wearing them today? Abel asked. Don't need them for court. No, reckon not. They drove to town in his truck. Same quiet, but different now. The kind of quiet that comes from knowing each other, not from having nothing to say. The courthouse was small, judge's chambers smaller. Her father sat on one side with his lawyer, man in a suit that cost more than Abel's truck. They sat on the other with Jim, who wore Wranglers and boots and a bolo tie. The hearing took 40 minutes. Her father's lawyer talked about patterns, about mental health, about Abel's questionable motives. Jim talked about rope burns, about medical records, about a man who gave up his peace to keep a kid safe. Lena didn't say much, didn't need to. The photos told the story clear enough. Judge was an older woman. 70 maybe? The kind who'd seen every wrong a person could do and still got surprised by new ones. She looked at Lena's father for a long time. Then at Lena, then at Abel. Mr. Carver, she said, you understand what you're taking on? Yes, ma'am. This isn't temporary. This is until she's 18. Maybe longer if she wants to stay. I understand. You got experience raising kids? No, ma'am. Just sheep. But I figure the principles are similar. The judge's mouth twitched. Might have been a smile. Motion denied, she said to the father's lawyer. Petition for temporary custody granted to Mr. Carver. 6-month review. The gavel came down. They walked out into cold sunshine. Snow had started while they were inside. Light dusting. Enough to make everything clean. Lena stopped on the courthouse steps, looked back at the building, at her father's car pulling away, at the snow falling soft on Main Street. You okay? Abel asked. Yeah. Just thinking about something you said, that first day. What was that? That some things a man's got to do don't make it easy. He remembered. The right thing ain't usually the easy thing, she said. That's how you know it's right. His own words. said back to him, healed and returned. They walked to the truck. She climbed in. He started the engine. Let it warm while snow gathered on the windshield. Abel? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For asking. For listening. For letting me choose. He looked at her, 17 years old, too skinny still, but standing straight, looking forward. Come on, he said. Got chores waiting? Sheep don't care about court dates. They drove home through the snow, radio on low, her humming to a song she didn't know the words to. The gloves sat on the seat between them. She picked them up, put them on. I'm keeping these, she said. I know. The snow kept falling. The truck kept rolling. They went home.